Oklahoma educators gathered at the National Weather Service office in Norman this week for the state's first Teacher Climate Summit. The goal was to give teachers the tools they need to teach climate science in the classroom and provide students the critical thinking skills needed to understand the long-term impact of global climate change.
The two-day Climate Science Summit was hosted by Oklahoma Forestry Services and Oklahoma Project Learning Tree. Jara Irby is the Forestry Services Education Coordinator.
We partnered up with the National Weather Center and the Oklahoma Mesonet to provide Oklahoma educators an opportunity to learn about our climate and from the experts, of course, here at the National Weather Center.
Oklahoma State climatologist Gary McManus opened the summit by giving educators an overview of Oklahoma's climate and the changes that have taken place.
We've had an extremely variable climate, from very wet to very dry, back to very wet, with lots of exciting weather, lots of tornadoes, tornado disasters, ice storms, heat waves, everything you could want in Oklahoma weather. We've had an abundance of it over the last 10 to 15 years.
The most obvious recent change has been the switch from long-term drought conditions to one of the wettest springs in Oklahoma's history. McManus argues the heavy rains which created massive flooding in May and June are related to overall warming temperatures.
If you have a warmer atmosphere, you have a higher ability to hold water vapor or more water vapor. And when you have a warmer atmosphere, you have more evaporation. So you have more water vapor. So when it does rain, there's more water vapor there to precipitate out, or rain, snow, whatever you want to, whatever it falls as. And so it's generally just a little bit more intense than what we've seen in our past.
Irby says the program developed by National Project Learning Tree and the University of Florida will help educators teach students about strategies for reducing greenhouse gas emissions which contribute to climate change.
The curriculum itself has 14 activities, and it looks at how climate could affect our forest ecosystems, as well as the climate's role in, the forest's role in sequestering carbon as a carbon sink.
Trees and forests play a crucial role in regulating our climate. Through photosynthesis, they remove CO2 from the atmosphere, binding it and storing the carbon as wood. The carbon is held in the forest biomass, in the trunks, branches, foliage, and roots, and in the soil as organic carbon.
Oklahoma science teachers greeted news of the impending summit enthusiastically.
We had 20 spots available for our climate summit, and we received over 45 applicants, and so we had to be very selective in who attended this summit.
Shannon Chatwin teaches environmental science at Owasso Mid-High and High School.
What's really good to learn is different ways to engage students into investigating what climate change is all about and how to get them to come to the conclusions with the evidence that is out there.
Christopher Storm, who teaches earth and space science and meteorology at Newkirk High School, is looking forward to taking the lessons of the summit back to his students.
Climate is very important for them to study because it really is where all of the different aspects of earth science, so oceanography, meteorology, geology, and astronomy come together.
The topic of climate change remains controversial in some circles. The legislature last year adopted new science standards for Oklahoma schools, despite the objections of some state lawmakers to the standard's inclusion of climate science. Storm and Chatwin recognize there will be those who don't want climate change taught in the public school system.
I understand that the controversial nature of it. However, I don't go to class preaching about it too much. What I do is I show them the data, and I show them how people came to the conclusions that they have, and which is what science is all about. It's using data to answer questions.
That's really where the science comes in, and letting these kids look at and see and determine through tree rings, through different studies, through our atmospheric conditions, through the ocean ice coverage, that we are experiencing a change.
While this was the first Teacher Climate Summit in Oklahoma, it's not expected to be the last. The Oklahoma Forestry Service plans to offer additional training for educators throughout the year and hopes to expand the summit to include even more teachers next year.